Welcome, everybody, to the Making Awesome podcast. This is, episode 207? Yeah. I'm excited. We made it through Hurricane Milton. Obviously, like if you're watching this, we made it through Milton. It was not easy, gonna be clear. We had likely well north of 110-mile-an-hour winds here. And if you haven't watched the main channel video, Print Fix Friday, the back half of it, we talk about it quite a bit more. The damage that we sustained, but I don't talk about too much how the off-grid system worked, what we did with 3D printing, and kind of the plan for rebuilding. Because there is some damage that needs to be fixed up. So if you're here hanging out, make sure to leave a like, get subscribed. If you're listening back audio only, hey, welcome. Hope you're doing all right. We got some awesome people here hanging out. Max H, Thomas, Geocacher, Matrix Tech, Mike from Never Let the Machines Win, James the Printer, Tuscany, don't know how to say that last name, I'm sorry. Nomad's Galaxy, Morton Larson, Bearded Printer with the $5. Thank you, getting it started today, because of course if you do want to support the efforts that we do here, you can drop a couple of bucks into that creator fund. Super chats and all that are always greatly appreciated while we are live, because of course these streams come to you 100% ad free. 3D Medic Vince is here. Ashley is almost finished with their Mark IV's upgrade. Mad Cat USA is here as well, and my brother said just got power back squad. Yeah, he was without power for quite some time. So let's dig into Hurricane Milton. So for those that don't know, the area that we are, so we're a little bit north of Tampa, Florida. Hurricane Helene, right before 3D Printopia, just skirted up the coast and decided to obliterate the Carolinas, right? We had to run away to Orlando to fly out to 3D Printopia. And when we got back, we basically flew back into a 2-day notice for Hurricane Milton, which was not a lot of fun. Growing up in Orlando, I'm kind of used to hurricanes at this point. Right, I was in Orlando for 2004, which is Charlie, Gene, Francis, and Ivan, and technically Ivan was twice. Ivan came through, went up into the higher up in the States, and then came back down and hit us again. Technically, it hit twice. Got a bunch of people donating. Thank you all very much. We got Cybertech with the $2, Thomas with the €5 saying bring home the shed fund. Yes, I have been bleeding for the shed. The Duchess saying, hey Grant, glad you're doing okay with the €11. Thank you all very much for supporting the channel and helping keep these streams ad-free. And of course, huge thank you to Printed Solid for sponsoring the film and giveaway that we have linked in that pinned comment. We will do giveaway later in the episode, and because it's now available, Jesse's Elixir is now available. We will give away one spool of Jesse's Elixir. It'll be the last spool that we give away here on the live. So, we got back, and maybe a day or two later, the local Waffle House announces that they're closing. Now, if you don't understand what that means, look up the Waffle House Index. The Waffle House Index, easy way to describe it, is instead of using computer models, FEMA essentially just looks where Waffle House closes their stores and puts aid in those areas. Because traditionally, Waffle House, for those that don't know, is a South thing. It is mediocre breakfast food at best, but it is dependably mediocre. Okay? That's the trick. It is identical pretty much anywhere you go. The people that work there are some of the most hardcore people you'll ever meet. And, do not mess with Waffle House employees. They do not take any crap from anybody. But the thing with Waffle House is they are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And if a Waffle House closes, they have done the math and said that the amount of damage that could happen to this location is worth more than attempting to keep the location open. Yes, there's a capitalism thing involved in this. However, their method of estimating damaging to their locations is better than pretty much any computer model that we've ever seen for estimating damages to areas. So FEMA uses it to determine where to send aid. And I swear to God, if any of you get political about FEMA in these comments, I will just start banning people. I'm not putting up with that crap right now. Regardless of how you feel about them, that's what the Waffle House Index is, so I think it's important to talk about it. I live near Wesley Chapel, Florida. I live in Wesley Chapel, Florida. My local Waffle House closed. When that happened, we said, okay, we have to put up shutters, right? That's literally how we determine if we put up shutters or not. Does the local Waffle House close? If it does, we put up shutters. That's how this works. And so when they closed, that next day, which was the day of the hurricane came at about, I don't know, midnight or so. Like, started around 10 p.m. is when we started to get the really heavy winds. And midnight, 1 o'clock is really when it got kind of nasty around here. And for those that don't know, my shed got overnight delivered to my neighbor's house, thankfully causing very little damage to their property, but obviously causing quite a bit of damage to our property. Max H says, I guess I can help a little with the $5. Thank you very much. Tarsman says 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., where hurricane force winds sustained over 100 miles an hour. Now, you might say, that sounds very fast, and you're right, it is. The next time you're driving down the highway, here in the United States, highway speed's around 70 miles an hour. Put down the windows in your car and stick your head out the window. Safely, of course, right? You know, be safe about it. And learn just how fast that is. We, like, in our surrounding area, tons of trees on power lines, tons of downed trees, just every possible thing that you can think of in terms of, like, what can wind do occurred in our area. I mean, we saw homes with their roofs completely ripped off. There's a local church that, unfortunately, so we were on the north side of the storm. North side of the storm means the wind blows from north to south, right? So wind blows from north to south. I forgot about that and parked my car on the north side of my house. That was a mistake. That is a mistake that I made, and I am now drying out the inside of my car. Thankfully, it's not too bad, but yeah. Anyways, my car did get some water ingress into it, unfortunately. Which, hilariously, I did not notice when I was doing my first walkthrough of the property at 3:45 in the morning. Anyone that ever has experienced hurricanes, you know that after the storm, it is very, very eerie. It's very quiet, right? Everything is so calm. It's an odd feeling and an odd understanding. You know, there's lots of noises, but it's all like birds and crickets and things that have now just been displaced out of their homes too. Whoa, Matrix Tech with the $20. Thank you very much, sir. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you to all of you that are supporting. I guess I'm putting this money toward the new shed fund, which may or may not be a shed. I don't know. I am currently in talks with some concrete 3D printing companies, some companies that make homes via 3D printing. I think that would be a cool thing to do, although I might just say screw it and do a couple of shipping containers. We'll see. And Steve Builds with the $20 saying for the shed fund. Thank you, sir. Hey, by the way, for those that are watching, when we're done streaming, we're going to kick you over to Steve Builds. He's working on a new version of the salad fork, or an update to his salad fork. There's a joke here. Is he going to a 3-tine or a 4-tine salad fork? Is it slightly too big? Is it slightly too small? Yeah. things. I'm making jokes about the salad fork. And Steve, at some point later today, let me know when you've got some time, because the video that we filmed at 3D Printopia is ready for us to review. So I'd love to review that with you when you get a chance. I know you're watching, so I'm going to tell you now rather than just DMing you on Discord saying, hey, when are you free to watch the video? It theoretically will go out live tomorrow. So Tarzman said places that are over 100 feet above sea level, no flood zone, had almost 1 foot of water in their house. Yeah. Milton dropped over 2.5 feet of rain in under 6 hours. So, you're talking almost a meter of rain in less than 6 hours. And I can confirm all of the fish tanks that are outside or on the back porch of our property have all overflowed. They all topped over. We have a rain barrel that's outside. It's just a barrel that's been sitting outside. It definitely doesn't have filament in it for the past few years. That is full. It was full before Milton came through. Helene dropped a bunch of water on us too. But things get a little bit crazy here. And here's the thing that people don't talk a lot about, right? Especially on the west coast of Florida, especially in the Tampa Bay area, people do not prepare at all because they are used to the storms getting really close and then just turning and going somewhere else, right? They're used to going somewhere else. And there's a fun conspiracy theory that MacDill Air Force Base has an anti-hurricane device because ever since MacDill Air Force Base has existed here in Tampa, Tampa has never had a direct strike. Milton is the closest we've ever had to a direct strike and is the strongest storm to hit Tampa Bay in over 100 years. Okay, to give you an idea, that's a lot, right? And because people are so used to the storms turning away at the last minute, nobody prepares for the storms. On my street, one person has a generator. Hilariously, that person is not me. I technically have a generator. It did not work. I'm very upset about this, but it did not work. And as Tarzman says, it is the 5th strongest storm ever. The 5th strongest hurricane ever. And Helene did cause a bunch of people to prep for Milton. But I live on a street of 7 homes. Every house is on 2 acres. We kind of live out in the boonies, or it used to be the boonies. It's becoming not the boonies anymore. Just, I don't like it. I like living in the boonies. Leave me alone. And we were out of power for 4 days because one of the telephone poles that holds the power lines out by us was rotten. The pole was rotted. And because the pole wasn't leaning on anything, it wasn't leaning on any trees, and trees weren't leaning on it, they didn't realize that was why we didn't have power. Yep. And I do want to give a huge thank you to all of the awesome people that came down. So the crew out here. So we have Withlacoochee River Electric. It is spelled precisely the way that you would want it to be spelled. You're welcome. But we have Withlacoochee River Electric, and they have 260,000 homes that they service, or 260,000 customers that they service. During the storm, they lost almost 200,000 customers due to power outages, and within 48 hours had over 150,000 places restored for power. Now, regardless of how you look at that number, look at it as a percentage. They got 80% of their people back online in 48 hours, which is just absolutely amazing. We had people from Wisconsin, we had people from Kentucky, and we had people from Idaho that were actively working in our area, because anytime we saw line crews, we're just hooting and hollering at them, telling them they're doing good work. But at the same time, if they're reasonably close to us, we'll go over and see, Can we help you? Is there anything that you need? Do you need saws? Do you need equipment? Do you need water, food, beer? I don't know. After hours, you want a couple of brewskis? I don't care. What can we do to help out? There's a joke because one of the local, we'll go with gentleman establishments, was giving a free entry to line workers. Because that's apparently how we support our line workers in Tampa. We give them free entry to the gentleman establishments. Shout out to the Dollhouse in Tampa, Tarzman says. Yep, the Dollhouse gave all utility workers free services. Because that's just the way we do things around here, I guess. Mad Cat USA for the $5 for this shed fund. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, Ashley Wim says, we have a theory that Redstone Arsenal has an anti-tornado device for that reason. But it's not true. We have had tornadoes. Okay, so I know where Ashley lives. I guess you can now look where Redstone Arsenal is. But, yeah, no, Tarzman's my brother. He lives like 30 minutes from me. And so worst Peter asks, why are the power lines not buried? Because for many years that wasn't a thing. I think it was since like 2006 or 2007. It was probably 2004. Was when it started to be mandated that all new construction is buried power lines. But power companies don't want to go through the effort to redo it. It's incredibly expensive. All new construction has underground power, which means the two big communities around me, they are lagoon communities, which means they have very big pools. They all had power the entire time. They never lost power. And if they did, they lost power for like 6 or 8 hours. So like as I'm driving home, we went out to eat a fair bit after the hurricane because I didn't want to cook. Like we're taking apart a shed. It's very heavy. It's a galvanized steel shed, which we didn't know it was galvanized until we started taking it apart. But the frame for it was galvanized, 1/8 of an inch thick. I should have had a piece of it in here. That would have been smart. And then it was all sheet metal on the outside that was painted quite well because it was barely rusty. But it was big enough to give you guys an idea. It's about a 25-foot square shed. It might be a 30-foot. I never actually measured it. I need to go out and measure it at some point. But it had a single bay garage door in it, and it could have fit 2 of them. It was big enough to have a double bay garage door, and it also had a man door. So what happened was, from what we can tell, the garage door blew out. The garage door faced north, so the wind, as far as I can tell, hit the garage door. It sat the shed up vertically, okay, on the south wall. And then the entire shed ripped off of the south wall, cartwheeled down my property, smacking my fence a few times before eventually breaking through the fence and then kind of, scattering debris across my neighbor's yard. We had a debris field as far as about 300 feet of just kind of debris for where this shed had deposited sheet metal, big pieces of steel. The garage door spring ended up 200 feet from where it should have been, or about 170 feet from where it should have been. There's Amber. Amber rode the entire storm out with me. My house is new enough, but also old enough to not have shutters. During Irma, all those years ago, we, at the last minute, said, crap, we need shutters. And so we went out to buy plywood. Everybody was sold out of plywood, but what they had was fence. And these are 1x4s, 1x6s, fence posts that have a very small gap between them, and they have stringers across them to protect them, which actually makes a lot easier to put them up and take them down because you've got like a handle. So that worked out okay. What we learned, though, is do not leave those panels out in the rain because you're too tired to do it all in one day because the panels gain a lot of weight in water and they suck to put up. But those were inside of the shed. I now no longer have a place to store my my shutters. But the thing with the shutters that they're not tall enough for the glass doors. So you have a place where you can peek above everything in the glass doors. And, well, when I got a message from my neighbor, and I'll pull it up and show you guys, because we never actually showed it in the video, but I'll pull it up since I took a screenshot of it. I will cover my neighbor's name. Although, honestly, I don't think any of you will be able to spell it if your life depended on it. Her first name is Birdie. She is 94 years old, and she is the definition of they don't build them like they used to. God bless it. Google Photos. I don't want to back everything up. Leave me alone. But my neighbor is the definition of they don't build them like they used to. Oh, ha ha ha. Her last name's not in this. This was the message that I got from her. It'll focus on that. Thanks for the shed. At 12:35 in the morning. And my response to her was, how much of it do you have? I saw the one piece that took out my fence. Little did I know that my entire shed had ended up in her property. So because we could only see out of a little bit, and this is like in 90-mile-an-hour winds, we are opening our sliding glass door. As long as... So, okay, all right, I should be clear here. 1, do not do that unless you know what you're doing. We knew what we were doing. The sliding glass door faces west. The wind is coming from the north to the south. So, there's no pressure involved in that. But you have to be careful, because if you have other windows open, you've now just given the wind a path to get into your house. The reason people put shutters up is not likely for the reason that you think. It's for debris. It's to stop debris. We put up shutters to stop things from breaking windows. Because if you get enough broken windows, the air gets into your house and has to get out of your house. And that often means it rips your roof off in the process. Right? Because now your roof becomes a parachute. And while roofs do have ridge vents and things like that, those vents are not enough to vent out the entire roof at 100 miles an hour. And so we put up shutters not because of the wind, but it's because of what the wind carries. Right? That's what we care about. And as Tarzman says, it's to slow down the debris. Think airbag, right? An airbag does not prevent you from getting injured. An airbag is force equals mass times acceleration. It's, what is that? The second law of thermodynamics? Jesus, not thermodynamics. Second law of physics, Newton's laws, not the laws of thermodynamics, Newton laws. I think F equals ma is number 2. I think it is. It might be number 3. I forget. Anyways, it's one of the Newton laws. And if you can accelerate, or in this case, decelerate a lot longer, okay, the time that it takes you to accelerate to 0, right? That means your acceleration is a lower amount because the time is extended. That means the impact that you have is lower. You get hurt less, right? Airbags are not perfect, and neither are shutters. Like, new homes have metal shutters. And that's where 3D printing comes in. Because people don't prepare for this, and instead, we can prepare for them. It's the second law. Cool. All right. It's the second. Thank you. It's not the second law of thermodynamics. That's the, you can't uncook an egg. One. But, so modern shutters use either number 3 Phillips or wing nuts. Often it's a combination of the two. The holes have number 3 Phillips that are plugs, so that the holes don't fill with like mud dauber nests, dirt, debris, and things like that. And then the wing nuts are what hold the actual shutters on. The thing is, if you've ever had to do it without the appropriate tool, you know it sucks. It takes hours to just spin the freaking wing nuts on and get them there. But by the time you realize that you need to put shutters up, it's way too late to get the tool. And no one remembers to buy the tool. No one remembers where they put the tool. So we 3D print them and we give them away. In fact, I put out a post on Twitter. I let everybody in my area know, and often I will deliver some to my parents, since their entire neighborhood has these types of shutters. The tool that it goes into a drill, you put your drill on like a Chuck 2 or a Chuck 3. It's a relatively low chuck so that you don't break the 3D printed part. But it will let you up armor an entire one-story house in like an hour and a half on your own, rather than like 6 hours on your own, which allows you to help other people, go inside and not deal with it for all that long, but just overall have things be easier. And that's where 3D printing is huge, because we can mass manufacture these. It takes about 5 hours to make 20 of them on any printer in the shop, basically. And, well, we spun up the farm. We made like 150 pieces in 5 hours, and I still have like 100 of them. Josh asked, do I have one that I can show? See, that would have been smart. I can go grab one, though. So, this area of my shop... Let go. Thank you. This area of my shop is still a mess. Ugh. I'll grab the ones off the XL. It is still a mess because, and we're going to get into it, of how we maintained mostly to have power the entire time. And these are the tools. This is how they print. Let me sit back down here. Let me get settled. Here, focus. So these are the tools. They hold wing nuts. You got to put a little brim on them. Real simple part to print. We print them out of PETG, and I guess, what is this, 16? Yeah, 16. These, right? Yeah, 4x4, 16. These are 8 walls and 50% infill. So 8 walls gets the fingers to be dead solid. And then they print like this. You rip them off. You don't even worry about the brim, because the brim takes care of itself as you're using the tool. And as long as you have a drill with a 1/2-inch chuck, this will fit in perfectly, and life will be good. And for the vast majority of homeowners, even like that have Ryobi tools, you can use these, and it will make life so much easier. We give them away for free. We do not charge for them. And if you are listening or watching this, and you are in the Tampa Bay area and can come out to the shop, and you need these, we will give them to you, as many as you need, for free. The deal is, you keep like 2 or 3 for yourself, and then you give out the others. You do not charge money for these. These are for free. We do not charge for these, and neither can you. Because that's not fair. If you live in other areas of the country and you want one of these tools, just, I don't know, cover the shipping, and I will get this out to you. I will charge you no money for the actual part. This is what we do, right? And as Mike says, it's a very nice, practical, life-saving print. Yes, it is, and I love it. It's great to have these things like this, and this is where 3D printing can be very valuable, because when Irma came through, Irma was the first time that most of us put up our shutters, and I went down to help my dad. Although I guess at the time, he was up here, so we drove down to help my mom up armor her house. Yeah, because then she evacuated up here, if I remember correctly, because my dad was still at St. Leo at that time. I brought a bunch of these and put them in everybody's mailboxes. The ones that we couldn't get to their homes, right? So if they had evacuated, they weren't at their house. To be clear, do not put things in people's mailboxes. Technically, that is illegal. You don't own the mailbox. Please don't do it. However, we also put a post out to the Homeowners Association, to their Facebook group and all that, said, hey, we left tools for all of you in your mailboxes. Please take them out once the storm is over. We're not trying to, commit mail fraud, but also at the same way, I don't just want to leave plastic parts sitting at your front door, which are going to blow away. Your mailboxes will be fine. You're welcome. So, yeah. Sorry, USPS. You probably didn't even know I did it. It was just it was a way to store things for a little bit during a high wind storm. Because, hilariously, the mailboxes tend to always survive the storms. Mine did. I don't think I ever saw a mailbox that had problems. At least where a tree didn't also fall on it. Those are for the corrugated steel panels. Yes, the Squid 510. Yes, yes. Max H asks, what is Victoria's secret? She has a pink belly. Postal Inspector watching this, like, it's not my first run-in with the Postal Inspector, so, you know how to reach me. My local Postal Inspector and the Postmaster General both have my personal cell phone number. There are stories associated with that I will not tell on camera. But let's say it involves things. The Squid says the popular option in Miami now is stormproof windows that are basically bulletproof and no extra shutter required. Yes. They also have my address. Yes, they do. Because, you know, they're the Postal Service. That is very common. Right? Well, they'll use, like, plexiglass or shatterproof windows or safety glass like the windshield of your car. However, it is still preferred that you put some sort of physical barrier up. Right? I laugh because in a lot of new construction, the structure of the house is rated to Category 4, but the windows are Category 5. So technically, the safest place to be in new homes is the windows, which is like growing up in Florida, they tell you, do not stand in front of windows. And you'll see people put tape on their windows. Never put tape on windows. If you want to protect your window from shattering into a billion pieces, first off, you don't have nice windows like that, because if you did, you'd know it. Most windows are regular plate glass. They're not tempered. So when they break into big shards. Well, if you put tape on your window and your window breaks, now you've produced nunchucks made of glass. Okay? Don't do that. Also, it leaves tape residue, and it is a pain in the ass to get off. So don't put tape on your windows. If you want to do something to protect your windows a little bit, put tint on them. The tint will hold the window together. It acts like safety glass. It's not as good as real safety glass, but it's better than nothing. So, you know, put tint on your windows. Brendan asks, am I going to write off the shipping for the shed? That was the joke. The joke was that, you know, my Birdie, my neighbor, was like, you know, I always thought about getting a shed. I said, well, I have a deal for you. I have got a deal for you, Miss Birdie. Yeah, I will go back to the fact that she is built different. She is 94 years old. This woman painted her entire house herself. And you might say, well, Grant, that doesn't sound all that difficult. It is when you run out of ladder. So her home is odd. It's quite tall, but it's only a single story, but it's got very tall ceilings. And so a regular extension ladder doesn't work. So instead of doing what, you know, normal people would do, which is, I don't know, ask for help when your ladder isn't long enough. It's a very common problem around these parts. No, you go get your late husband's pickup truck, you drive the pickup truck close to the house, and you put the extension ladder in the pickup truck so you can get high enough to finish the rest of the paint on your house. To her credit, paint looks great. But when I saw her doing that, I ran over, I'm like, are you okay? She's like, I'm good. I just know if I fall up this ladder, I want to die. I don't want to be injured. I'm like, okay, I mean, you can't argue with that, right? You know, her husband was a China Marine. He was a flamethrower for the U.S. Army? Might have been a Marine. Yeah, would have been a Marine. China Marine. Uh, yeah, so he was a backpack flamethrower for the United States Marine Corps. He was a proper old school American badass, and it's funny because in dealing with my shed, we found a lot of like the funny things that he did. They have a whole area where they grow like butterfly plants, right? So milkweed and that kind of stuff. Um, and he did not like having to water it. So he dug a trench, put in PVC pipe, and then brought a pipe up in the middle of the flower bed. And instead of installing a sprinkler like a regular person would have, he installed a shower head. There's a shower head there. Now, I only know this because that's where my shed landed and completely broke all of that stuff, and we ended up having to fix it. And of course, we put the shower head back in. Now, thankfully, it's toward the end of the season. You would normally be cutting the plants down at this point anyways, so my shed just made all of that happen faster. But yeah, like myself, her son, and Amber are trying to take the shed apart, and she is out there collecting all the big sticks and branches that have fallen, building big mounds of it, and then lighting it on fire. And she's doing this for like 7 hours in the sun in an adorable blue and white polka dot skirt. She's just enjoying her day. And it was the Saturday after the storm. We were there, we were finishing up the shed, and I was talking with her. And she's like, I'm really upset. I can't go to church tomorrow. I'm like, what church do you go to? I'm sure, we can get them power. We'll figure out a way to get them, make sure that you can go to church. No. The church actually has power. They've opened the doors to people. We're actually going to be serving meals tomorrow. She said, but I don't have enough power to curl my hair. And if my hair isn't done up right, I don't go to church. I offered for her to bring her curlers over to the house so she could curl her hair, because she does like the old school curls and does them overnight. I'm like, Bertie, you can come over. We'll set it all up at the house. We'll let you curl your hair so you can go to church tomorrow. She's like, no. It's too much work. I don't feel like doing that. The Lord will understand. I'm like, okay. That's old school right there, right? She won't go to church unless she could curl her hair, and she doesn't use like a curling iron like people use now. She uses the old school curlers. It's just like that kind of stuff. It's like they just don't build them like they used to. I think she is like some sort of AI robot, because I've never seen someone with more energy than what she has. Brandon says, make sure to use an energy efficient shower head. I'm certain that if there was any energy efficiency associated with that shower head, it was removed. We all have wells out here, and I will tell you, we do not have a water problem right now. The wells are nowhere near going dry. It is quite the opposite. In fact, there's still a ton of standing water in the area. It is so saturated that there are problems. So, couple of days of tearing down the shed, lots of cuts, lots of fire ant bites, lots of mosquito bites, and your boy realizing that, yes, he can actually get, I'll show this on the camera, can actually get a decent tan, farmer's tan, but I can actually tan, and not just turn into a lobster. The shed is now in pieces back in my yard. So, bit of a fun challenge. 4 days without power. Yeah. It is different because, well, we weren't exactly without power. Those of you, like the 1,000 of you, because it did not get very good views, the off-grid video, where I talked about the off-grid system that we built. So I bought a bunch of solar panels off Facebook Marketplace, 9 200-watt solar panels. Now, they're not wired to 1,800 watts, but they're still wired to quite a few watts. That system with an EcoFlow alternator inverter allowed us to keep the bulk of our life support systems online at all times. Now, unfortunately, I learned a valuable lesson. Even though you could put really big batteries on a UPS, please don't do that unless you are a trained professional. Do not try what I'm about to tell you at home. Even though you can put really big batteries on a UPS and get like 7 kilowatt hours worth of batteries on a UPS, that does not mean it will charge them fast. We ran into a problem where we were drawing our batteries down more overnight than what we could charge during the day. Now, I also made the mistake of hastily at the last minute saying, we can't leave the solar panels outside and we need to bring them inside. In doing that, we just quickly unwired everything without, noting what goes where, because unfortunately, when I did the install of the panels, I didn't know which was supposed to be positive and negative, and I often screwed it up. So a lot of the wires that are red are actually negative, and basically you need a multimeter to put those panels back together. Now, for the insurance companies that are likely watching this video, it is not grid tied. It is not on my roof. It is sitting on the ground. It is a fully off-grid system. Get off of it. Anyways, I know my laws. So when we put the panels back out there, we were dealing with some wiring issues. So we were running most of the life support systems off of the EcoFlow alternator, which is amazing. The EcoFlow alternator inverter is amazing. It requires you to use like their Delta or above series because it uses a very special XT150 plug that they have. It is not like an XT30 or an XT60. It's got communication protocol as well. And, it works. It's just expensive. I got it on a pricing error at $200. Normally they're $400. But even at $400, it would have been worth every penny. We used Amber's CRV. She has a 2020 CRV. I have a 2002 Honda Accord with the V6. My car would go through about a gallon of fuel every hour and a half or so running the alternator inverter. And at idle, I could do about 600 watts. Amber's car, I think, is a 1.6 liter turbo. The CRV, if someone wants to look that up, they can. It's the all-wheel drive CRV from 2020. I'm fairly certain it's a 1.6 liter turbo. Hooking it up to that, when the car is reasonably cold for the first hour or so, it could do 800 watts at idle. Once the alternator warmed up a little bit, it would drop down to about 700, 750. And so that's just at idle. And at idle, her car was using about a gallon every 5 hours, which is amazing. That's so little fuel, right? But we were both laughing because I got 58 miles to a half a tank of gas because we were barely driving. We were just idling our cars to power the house. And she got 75 miles to 3/4 of a tank. And my tank in my car is 14 gallons. Hers is like 12. So like just to give you an idea of like how little we were driving. And I'll get to the part where gas was incredibly scarce and difficult to come by. Because people freak out and assholes exist. So, using the EcoFlow alternator inverter, it, unlike regular inverters, it also monitors your battery voltage. So I set it to draw the max that it can, but then I also set the minimum battery voltage that I want. So when I hook it up, I start it at 14 and I bring it down to 12. And it will draw as much as it can until it hits 12 volts, and then it will just modulate itself to maintain 12 volts. And that's awesome. That means you don't overdraw your alternator. If your alternator gets hot and it starts to perform poorly, it doesn't draw down the battery of your car. It just draws less wattage to let things cool down. It is a super nice bit of kit. Combined with the solar on the final day, which is when we finally got it all figured out wiring-wise, we produced over 1 kilowatt constant during the day, which was super cool and actually allowed us to go out and do some food shopping. It was Sunday. So the storm happened Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday around 8 p.m. is when we lost power. We were back up power Sunday evening around 9. But it allowed us to leave the house with Amber's car. So we disconnected her car and we left the house to go food shopping. Because we did end up losing some food. But we went food shopping and were able to do all of that. And the system maintained itself, which was super cool. Because 300 watts worth of solar, we were drawing like 350 watts constant. 50-watt draw with like 8 kilowatt hours worth of batteries is no big deal. That was super cool to see that we were able to run 100% off-grid, 100% without any, gasoline. That was really cool. And just further proved that this is something that is worth investing in for me, right? I don't like gas generators. They're unreliable, they're unpredictable, and if you don't keep a good eye on them, they can do serious damage. People that put their generators underneath their homes or underneath their decks, people that run their generators under a porch that don't have them well vented, people that run their cars inside of their garages like idiots. Carbon monoxide will kill you. Please don't do that. And I don't want to have to rely on the fact that there's going to be gasoline. Because for the first couple of days, and the couple of days leading up to the storm, gas pumps around the area were dry. People were lining up for miles to get 10 gallons of gas. Police were called to do crowd control because people were getting in fistfights and pulling out Florida man things because they were getting cut in line, and just people are crazy. And I can't thank my neighbor Alex enough. I don't know if you watch my channel, but if you do, there's your shout out, homie. Day 2, and I was helping him out, or trying my best. I ended up messing up his inverter that he had. I bought him a new one, so I feel okay about that. Bought him a better one too. He was going out to Hudson. He had some family friends out there where he was storing all of his food and that kind of stuff and taking showers. He said, "Hey, what gas cans do you got? I want to go see if I can get gas between here and Hudson." Give you an idea, the only place that had gas had about a 3-hour line to get gas. Think about that. Put that in perspective for you. 3 hours of your life to get fuel. So I gave him all of my gas cans, and he went away. Lo and behold, he didn't get any. The next day, he was out at Publix, because the Publixes in our area actually always had power, which was great, because it means we could go there, get a hot meal, a cold meal, whatever we wanted. Cold drinks were the big one. You could go get a cold drink, even if it was just water. And the Circle K across from the Publix, a gas truck pulled right up to it, and he was the first in line and brought me 20 gallons of gas, which we promptly poured into like 3 gallons into Amber's car. And that was all she needed. I still actually have the gas cans. My neighbor got his generator running. I told him, if you need gas, I've got cans sitting outside of my house. Please take them. Please use them. I helped him wire his generator to his well, because we're all on well water out here. So when we lose power, we lose water. And helped him wire that so everyone could go to his house to get a shower, use the bathroom. Ended up not doing either of those things, but, whatever. And then I was bringing around power packs to the neighbors that didn't have any prep so that they could hopefully keep their refrigerators and freezers from thawing out. It sucked. Cybertech says, I work on whole house generators, and the main thing I ran into in the last 3 weeks here in North Carolina was people not checking the oil and trying to run too much load. Bye-bye $10,000 generator. Yep. See, it's why I like it. I like having an old car. If it leaks oil, it's got oil. Okay, as soon as the car stops leaking oil, it's time to add it. Although it's a Honda, it has an oil light. I take good care of my car. There are just certain things that aren't worth fixing, and a very, 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 very small oil leak is not worth the hours of time it will take to fix it. I'm sorry. It's a 22-year-old car. The fact that it's still on the road is good. But yeah, people don't service their generators, and unfortunately, that's part of my problem too. I don't think my generator has compression. I will eventually be tearing down the gas engine on it to figure it out. I had put a post on Twitter asking, could I pull the actual generator off of it, somehow rig it to my lawnmower, yada yada. And none of that actually ended up happening, unfortunately, so that did not work. Also, got 82 people here watching, 30 likes. Gotta pump those likes up. Don't forget to get subscribed, obviously, but also enter for the printed solid Jesse filament giveaway. The final spool that we give away today on the stream will be Elixir. So if you want a chance to win some of Jesse's Elixir in some awesome colors, make sure to enter in that giveaway. It is US only for the filament, unless you want to pay to ship it overseas. But if you are overseas and you win, I'll send you a shirt, or I will donate the amount of money that all that would cost to the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation in your name. Yeah. Dumb Dev said, do wells ever get messed up in hurricane weather, like salt water in them? I've never had that happen. So we tap into the Florida aquifer, as most people do. These are sand-based wells, so you just dig down far enough where water collects in what is a hole full of sand. The sand acts as a filter, basically. And so the wells are actually pretty decent water that comes out of them. It's a little high in iron, so like you get yellow rings or the orange rings in toilets and things like that. We have hard water here, so we get calcium buildup. You can generally deal with the iron with a decent filter, but some houses get hydrogen sulfide gas, which is fun times. So, yeah. Soundsmoke says, the red oil light doesn't mean add oil. It means you have no oil pressure and your engine is destroying itself. Not in Hondas, baby. Go watch people trying to destroy the old VTEC Hondas. You can run them without oil for hours and there's no discernible damage. In my car, what it means is that it's losing oil pressure. And so I will notice it when I go around a corner and the light just turns on and then it turns right off again because the oil is now sloshed over back to the pickup. It means that it didn't have oil pressure for a second. It's no big deal. I stop the car, pop the hood, go to the trunk, grab the jug of oil, put in like a quart, and we move on. It's thing. I got to start converting to thicker oil. I know. It's just part of it. We're fine. And going back to the wells, the big issue with the wells is if you lose power, you lose water. I've never had salt water come into the wells, but I would guess if you're close to the coast, that could be an issue. I am like 30 plus miles as the crow flies, like dead straight line from the coast, and we are over 100 feet above sea level here. So we are not in any flood zones. We have pretty decent things. WWF says, my friend lives in Venice, and he said it was a bit scary at times. That's Venice, Florida, John Stern. There is a Venice, Florida. Venice, Florida was a little bit south of where the storm came in. The eye went right over my parents. And if you happen to watch Cletus McFarland on YouTube, he actually took video inside of the eye, because my parents don't live very far from his track, and they live very close to each other physically. But the eye did go directly over them. It was a very small eye, which means the storm was very powerful. 5th largest storm that we've ever experienced. Ever. Period. Yeah, Venice, Florida is a very nice area, for the most part. Most things south of Tampa. And, you know, before you get... There are some really nice areas, like the Bradenton, Sarasota area is a beautiful area. And they sustained a lot of damage. A lot of damage. See, I've never experienced that issue with the well. Our well did experience some damage. The electrical box is damaged. I have it kind of rigged right now to run. However, we're waiting for insurance adjusters. right? Because the shed and all of that is not like, it's not a big deal ultimately. It is not high up on the insurance adjuster priority list. My neighbor, who lost a bunch of shingles and has water in his house, his insurance adjuster was already out because that's a big deal. You need to get that solved fast because the longer that takes, the more damage is done. Now, we've gotten lucky. It hasn't rained here since the storm. So at least, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But if it was really wet and raining here, you know, you'll see a lot of homes with blue tarps, right? This storm was set to basically be Hurricane Andrew, but for the Tampa Bay area. And so much of downtown Tampa flooded, as it normally does, but really bad. I'm not certain if Tampa General Hospitals, they have a water wall, or whatever the hell they call it, but it is a wall that keeps storm surge out. I'm not certain if it worked. I think their storm surge was above it. They might have gotten lucky, but like, dude, yeah, we definitely saw a lot of damage, right? We probably have somewhere in the range of $25,000 to $30,000 in damage. And unfortunately, I don't know how much of it insurance is going to cover. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. We are safe. The house is fine. Everything in the shed is destroyed. That includes both of my lawnmowers. I had a push mower and a zero turn. The zero turn got absolutely obliterated. It could be repaired, but I gotta wait for insurance to look at it. Thankfully, I don't have to mow. And I'm pissed because that mower was just running well, and it doesn't run well anymore. So, Max H says FEMA help, ? Potentially. I got to fill out all the paperwork for that. There's a lot of paperwork in my future. Had a project car that was in there that ended up being dragged 8.5 feet, sat on top of kayaks that it was sitting next to. I just got the kayaks out from the project car yesterday, and actually that's how I cut my hand. This hurts a lot, by the way. This is not a great place to get a cut, especially a relatively deep cut. It's fine. I cleaned it. So yeah, we're hoping that we can get everything fixed. 'Cause there was a lot of like nice 3D printing gear that was in there that is ruined. Stuff for industrial grade 3D printers like depowdering stations. I have a pharmaceutical grade fume hood. There was a high pressure wash station for the PolyJet printer. Although that wasn't, there's stuff. A lot of stuff that got damaged. Bearded Printer says goats will mow the lawn and take care of the debris while they're at it. The problem is I don't have a fence anymore to keep the goats from running away. Yeah. John Stern says you need a better story for that cut, like catching a sword while being attacked by ninjas. No, the way this actually happened is really stupid. And I probably should have known better. I was attempting to move the project car with ratchet straps because that was my first idea, is like, I could probably drag it off the kayaks with ratchet straps. Lo and behold, I couldn't. And so when I went to take the pressure off the ratchet strap, it spun really fast and it caught my hand. That's what happened. Ended up listening to my dad, because of course he was right. And used I have a high lift, well, it's not a high lift jack, but it's the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh 3-ton low profile high lift jack. Like, love the jack. It's a phenomenal piece of kit, and was able to get the vehicle up high enough that I could drag the kayaks out. Now, one of them did sustain some damage. It's probably repairable with 3D printing, but we'll find out. So, yeah. We'll see. I had a whole thing planned to upgrade those kayaks with 3D printing, and I'm not certain I can do that anymore, because I'm not certain how good it is. Mr. Tiburum with Harbor Freight's slogan, "It's good enough for who it's for." Yep. It's true. I actually just bought a bunch of tools from Harbor Freight, some sockets and things like that. 'Cause I needed some large sockets, and like I needed a 30 some odd mil socket, and I didn't have it. I'm like, screw it, I'll just go to Harbor Freight and get it, because I only needed it for one thing. Harbor Freight's great when you only need it for one thing. And their hand tools are guaranteed forever, so even if they break, go get a new one. Who cares? Yeah, so if you or someone you know has a 3D printing company that works in concrete or makes homes, I would love to talk with them, because I think it'd be really cool to 3D print a new shed, which could actually be where I move the business to. I can make it big enough that I can move the business into it. That'd be a really cool video, right? 3D printer, 3D prints, 3D printing business. Like, come on. That's a great title. It's a great friggin' title. And his bearded printer says, I prefer to pronounce it debris. Yes, debris is actually debris. I'm sorry, it's just the way to do it. Yeah, Harbor Freight tools have their place. Like, I have a Harbor Freight reciprocating saw. I also own a real Sawzall, like a Milwaukee Sawzall. I will often grab the crappy Harbor Freight one because I don't care. The amount of times that I've grabbed that Harbor Freight saw to cut out trees from the ground is more than I care to admit. The amount of times that the friggin' extension cord, the cable on it has been cut, is more than I care to admit. It's a great tool, and when it dies, it owes me nothing. It was $20. I'm like really, cautious with my Sawzall because I don't want to break it. But yeah, that Harbor Freight reciprocating saw, don't care. Beat the hell out of it. It is what it is. I know what I paid for it. I know what its value is to me, and it owes me nothing. Love that saw. And I'll tell you, having the solar system, or the solar panels, right? If I say solar system, you think planets, but having the solar panels is actually really valuable. Because when we were taking the shed apart, I brought over my Delta 2 Pro with a solar panel and one of the connectors for it. So as we were charging our rechargeable batteries for all of our tools, because we didn't have power, we had to take a shed apart with no power, I was using the solar panel to offset the energy that we were using. My neighbor also has a hydroponic garden. So they've got the thing with like the tilapia in it and all the plants growing. It's not the devil's lettuce, it's actual lettuce. She's in her 90s. Even if it was the devil's lettuce, ain't no one gonna care about some 90-year-old lady, but it's not. It's regular vegetables that are all now missing. They all are gone with the wind, if you will. And the pump on those tanks obviously doesn't work because no power. So we were plugging that in. We were charging rechargeable batteries. Dude, having a semi-portable solar array is really convenient. Like being able to deliver, I have little 5-volt solar panels with USB ports on them. I have 4 of them. They're 20 watts a piece. I delivered one of those panels to each of my neighbors that have kids and the ones that asked for them. I said, hey, does anyone need them? I had 2 neighbors that asked. I brought them to them so they can charge their phones. They can charge their iPads, their tablets, whatever. That kind of stuff matters a bunch, right? Those little qualities of life keep kids in check during tough times when adults are just trying to get work done. That kind of stuff is so valuable, and where I look at it and say there's things that we can do to help other people. And the key takeaway for me is that I was the most prepared on my street, even though I didn't have a generator. Even though my house sustained the most amount of damage out of any house on the street. Maybe. I don't know. The roof and I might be fighting for first place. But it is to help your fellow person, right? Go help your neighbor, right? I made sure that all of my electric chainsaws all the batteries in them were charged. I made sure the pole saw worked, the 16-inch bar, the 18-inch bar, and the 14-inch bar electric chainsaws all worked, and I had portable power and a means to take it places. If I had a phone call say, hey, I got a tree down in my yard, can you come help? Dude, I was going to be there. I was going to be there to help. I wasn't afraid to offer assistance. I believe that we should help each other out more than we do. I think ever since the human malware, I don't know, I feel like the world's changed a little bit, where people don't help each other out as much as they used to. You know, we were all on the street laughing because none of us ever talked to each other, right? My neighbors and I almost never talk to each other because we're all on 2 acres. We keep to ourselves. But as soon as shit hit the fan, we were all texting each other. How can we help? What can we do? How can we help? What can we do? Or I said, I've got ways for everyone to charge their devices. Bring them over. We'll charge them up for you. We'll bring them back. Right? Hey, if you need to charge something, you need to charge it fast. Open my garage. Plug into the battery bank that's right in there. You'll be able to charge things up to 2,700 watts. Just charge it. I don't care. I'll find a way to recharge the bank later. If you need power, charge things. I don't care. You know, I told everyone I have electric saws. I have means to power them. If you have trees down, you need them cut up, let me know. We'll cut them up. No big deal. Salty Scorpion says, gas chainsaws are always ready to go. Just a fuel can and go. Yeah, if you can get fuel, or you actually get the rebuild kit correct. My gas chainsaw is no longer with us. It needed a rebuild. I attempted the rebuild. It did not go well. The gas chainsaw is no longer with us. I much prefer my electric chainsaw to my gas saw. I really do. I really do prefer it. It's so much quieter. It's so much lighter. I don't have to worry about oil. Well, I have to worry about bar oil, but I don't have to worry about the traditional sense of oil and gas and 2-stroke and 4-stroke and all of that. I don't have to worry about that crap. So, yeah. I just feel like we don't help each other out as much as we used to. And I want people to do more for their fellow person. You know, help each other out more often, please. Because you don't know. And, dude, if you got a 3D printer and you live in an area where people put up shutters, these tools are amazing. Just print and keep an inventory of like 30 or 40 of them. And when a storm is coming through, give them out. Put a post on Facebook on all like the offer ups and be like, hey, if you need it, come and get it. This stuff doesn't cost a lot. I think 20 of them is like 200 grams of filament. It's like $5. Who cares? Right? If you can help someone for less than $5, damn it, you do it. I'm kind of tired of people being really like, it's all for me and none for you. Like, seeing people at the gas lines reminded me of how bad people can be. I don't like that. I really don't like that. You know, I was willing to give away all the gas that we had. We'll be fine. We'll find ways. We will always find ways. And I don't know. I guess part of it is to give people the benefit of the doubt, where you necessarily wouldn't prior. They're not often bad people. They're just very stressed out. They're going through things. They are not prepared and they're mad at themselves. Right? It's a pain. Toolful says, so I assume you never considered evacuation. I am not in an evacuation zone. My house is in evacuation zone none. I am so far above sea level that if my house floods from water, like, what's the right term? From like storm surge, most of the state is missing. If it's a category 3, we will consider leaving. But, like, what's the point? I can't take the business with me. I can't... when you evacuate, you have to make difficult decisions of what do you take and what do you leave, right? You have to basically fit everything that you would want to keep into a vehicle or two. And then you just start driving and you hope that you can find a place to stay. See, here's the problem. Florida only has like two main thoroughfares to get out of the state. I-75 and I-95. Those are the two main ones. Both of those kind of bring you up into the Georgia, Alabama area, right? Well, all the hotels in those areas were full. Nobody could get rooms. Nobody had places to go. So people were camping out in their cars. It's rough. I don't know if that's for me. I think I'd rather stay and ride out the storm. If the roof goes, the roof goes. I'm protected from debris. My shutters are actually pretty strong. And they're put into the house with Tapcons. Proper, real Tapcons. Those are masonry screws, because homes here are not wood. They're cinder block. Yeah. Oh, K-Glass, what are these tools? These are the tools for wing nuts for hurricane shutters. So, Toolful says, a subscriber would take you in. Well, yeah, I could probably find someone, and I've got family and friends, you know, in Georgia, Tennessee, places like that. To wonder if you're going to come back to a house or a mess, that's the kind of stress that I don't... It's the kind of stress I don't wish on anybody. And you might say, well, then just move out of Florida. It's easier said than done. Can't afford to move. Housing prices are so high that moving right now is not financially feasible. Right? Sure, this house is worth a bunch of money. But everybody's house is worth a bunch of money. You know, and on top of it, I got to take the cat. I had to deal with litter boxes and food. I can find food. I got to worry about the cat. Got to worry about Amber. Got to worry about just... I don't know. I've never been in a situation where I needed to evacuate. There are times where we were asked to evacuate. It's like I grew up on a college. I was born and raised on colleges, a little bit different than most people's, early years. But because of that, like when we had hurricanes, the college had a shelter. So we went there. Why bother? It's like half a mile from where we were. Who cares? But if you have to go out of state, drive hundreds of miles to try to find a place to stay for a couple of days, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I know a lot of people that did evacuate. Hell, I know a lot of people that didn't. That probably should have. I laugh. My friends Jazz and Joe, they are in Zone C. They were under a mandatory evacuation order. However, they are in a second-floor apartment. They opted to stay. They lost power for like 6 hours. They were totally fine. I was basically saying, you all really need to come out to the house. You'll be safer here. We have means to produce power. We'll be okay. Yeah, them staying likely was a much better decision for them. So to get into what we did with the batteries, I know I said I was going to talk about that and I didn't. Also, printed solid filament giveaway. Do that. And by the way, streams are coming to you ad-free. So if you don't mind, a couple of bucks every now and then helps to keep these streams ad-free, coming at you live here on 3D Musketeers YouTube channel. So for those who don't know, I have pretty serious battery backups for all the print farms. This wall here has, 3 kilowatt hours worth of batteries. That wall has about 6 kilowatt hours worth of batteries. And what we did during the storm is we unplugged all of it. We took those battery banks offline. We shut down computers, took the banks offline, and wired them all into the house. Now, I do not recommend this. This is like fire code issues, but when you're dealing with a disaster, when you're dealing with problems, just be smart about it. Don't be stupid. You'll be okay. So what we did, again, I am not recommending you do this. We went from the EcoFlow Delta 2, which was our main power ingress station. It could do multi-charging with the alternator, inverter, and solar panels. From that, we went to the APC 3000 that sits back there with batteries. From there, that output to the bank over here, and then it ran a cord out into the main area of the house, where we then had a power strip where we powered the cat's food and water. She's got a water fountain and an automatic feeder. Sue me. It also then went to the fridge and freezer, so that could stay online. And then it would also charge up the Delta 2 Pro, which we used, or not, the River 2 Pro, excuse me, which we used at night with open windows to keep a little bit cool, because it was very hot, very damp here in Florida during those times. We had the better part of like 9 or 10 kilowatt hours worth of batteries, and we were drawing on average about 800 watts. Oh yeah, and then we also had the internet. The internet is on an APC 1000 or APC 1500, and it could run about 6 hours on its own. We did have that plugged in as well, so it could remain charged. We let it die pretty much every night. There was no point in drawing the extra power. Let the battery pack die. It'll charge itself up during the day. Fun fact, I almost never lost internet during that entire thing because nobody else was using internet, so we were not dropping a lot of packets, which was pretty awesome. So I always got to laugh about that. But yeah. Very, very, very odd times. The night of day 3, we lost everything. All the batteries went dark. We didn't have a car running because overnight we don't want to leave the cars running because there's a theft hazard for that. So overnight day 3, we lost all power. And that's when I realized that, yep, the big battery packs can't recharge themselves because they only charge at like 200 watts. So that was a bummer. But it was the night of day 3. We were moving into day 4. And day 4 was really sunny. So day 4, we were able to make a bunch of power via solar. So the Delta 2 could remain charged and then charge everything else. I am happy with what we did. If you ever wanted to have a proof of concept get proven so quickly, try doing solar during hurricane season, right? I don't think I've had that rig for 6 months. I haven't had all the batteries for that long. And you know what? In fact, I can check this. I can check when I have that battery, because I can find the actual email from EcoFlow. It did not come to that email, so it went to my other email. Hold on. Because now I'm curious, right? Let's see. May. So it's May 27th is when I ordered the Delta 2, and the 28th is when I ordered the River 2 Pro. They were it was an eBay thing where EcoFlow had refurbished units with warranties for sale for very little money, so I picked up some then. So what, May to what? It's month 5. So yeah, less than 6 months. Less than 6 months, I was able to prove that this worked. It was pretty cool. It was really cool. I'm not going to lie. It was really cool. It was really cool to prove that this system works, and it is pushed me to do more solar, more batteries, so that we can maintain running our machines during storms. We can maintain all life support systems, including water, during storms. We don't have to worry about being reliant on the grid. And for whatever it's worth, with Lakuchi River Electric has been one of the best power companies I've ever had. Right? Considering the damage in my area and the damage that places sustained, they did an amazing job. And in fact, their crew, since I think their entire system is pretty much online at this point, their crews are now helping all the other power companies. Dude, this is the Florida that I want people to know about, right? Where power companies are doing good and people are helping people, not where people are pulling out firearms at gas stations, because that's the smart thing to do. It upsets me, man. Because there's a lot of good here. And the problem is it's not the good that you see. Anytime that we saw these police and fire outposts, we were bringing them food and water and whatever they would want. We were going to Costco. It was Saturday, so that would have been... Yeah, that was day... No, it was Sunday. That was day 4. That was when we had... we were good on power. So we left. And we went food shopping. And Pasco County had one of their main outposts there. They had hundreds of vehicles. They had the Sherps, those amphibious tank things. Super cool. Super, super cool. And they had emergency response. And you know that it's a pretty bad situation when police and fire are working together. Like, next to each other, helping each other together. Police and fire are not normally friends. You know, there's like that, you know, oh, yeah, we're the police, we're better than the fire. The fire people saying, oh, yeah, look, it's the donut eaters. You know, it's like how the military branches all make fun of each other, but when push comes to shove, they're going to help each other. And we went over there. Carrabba's had just dropped off a bunch of food. We said, hey, is there anything that you guys need? Food, water, whatever. They thought we were representatives of Costco. We weren't. We told them we weren't. They're like, no, we got a bunch of really healthy food. I said, I see a lot of healthy food, but I don't see a lot of unhealthy food. Y'all want some snacks? And they're like, well, we're not going to say no. So Amber and I went into Costco and bought them a bunch of snacks, brought them all over, because they are the ones that are rescuing people. They're the ones that are getting yelled at by people. And yes, don't get me wrong. There are times where police do very bad things and they don't get charged for it. There is a lot of bad that the police do, but there's also a lot of good. And the cops, the fire department out here, they did a lot of good. They saved a lot of lives. They saved a lot of people that didn't have a snowball's chance. And if we as civilians can take an extra second to thank them, tell them that we appreciate them, give them some water, some snacks, whatever, where we can, it makes their day a lot better. Because if you think you're stressed, they're stressed more. Their job is to try to keep people from dying, right? Try to keep order. They were literally giving police escorts to gas trucks to give you an idea of how crazy things were getting here. And this was only when people were without power for a couple of days. I just, I guess I just want people to know that I care. And that we care. And that, at least for our first responders, that I know you all get a bad rap. Some of it is deserved. Some of it isn't. I want to make sure they know it isn't. So, try to help them where we can. Soundspark says my Spectre must have had a backup. Yes, or they never lost power. So there were areas that just didn't lose power because they had underground power. Baloo says, I never thought about how important decentralized power generation can become during events like this. Yeah. I never realized how valuable having that photovoltaic or PV array was going to be. I never realized how valuable it was. I just use it to, like, keep my garage somewhat livable when it gets hot. Right? But now seeing how it can help myself help my neighbors, help people in the area, you can bet your ass I'm investing in it. Now, of course, I'm doing it different than most, right? I'm not putting panels on the roof. I'm buying used panels off of Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, and places like that. I'm going to wire them together myself. I am hoping that I can work with a company like EcoFlow, Jackery, Anchor. Hell, I'll even work with DJI on that one. Because, like, just don't internet connect them and there's no data issues. At least I don't think. If it requires the DJI app, I might have to say no. So I have to look into that. But I want to build batteries from companies that produce the batteries. But I also want to DIY a solution and look at the difference. Right? It's pretty amazing. Like, I never thought that off-grid video was going to be so valuable, even though it didn't do very well. We didn't expect it to do well. There's going to be some things where we utilize 3D printing for off-grid stuff here, but I needed to introduce the topic, right? Mike Sterling says, hey, Grant, glad you made it through the storm without a ton of losses. Unfortunately, we did. We had a lot more loss than we were hoping for, but we survived, and that's what mattered. Sorry that YouTube page just crashed on me. He said, I'm in the Hudson, Port Richey area, and we fared well. Also, the damage to folks on the coast was sad to see. Unfortunately, our shed is gone. It's probably $20,000 to $30,000 in damage if I had to take a rough estimate, but I'm not good at that stuff. Glad you did okay, though. We are humans. We're fine. Stuff, not fine, but stuff is replaceable. Humans are much harder to replace. Mike Sterling said the wife was able to get free gas here in Pasco earlier this week. I'm assuming it was a county or state-funded relief effort. Most likely. Most likely it was. Toolful says, I'm impressed how much power you made with some used solar panels laying on the ground. I'm in Dallas, and the grid gets delicate here sometimes. I'll show you another photo. I took a screenshot from my phone on day, I think it was day 4. I don't know, I'll tell you. Let's see. This was Sunday, October 13th. So, yeah, this was day 4. So there you go. It'll focus eventually. Focus, please. Please focus. Oh my gosh. Not on my lights, not on my face, on the phone. Please. Please. Hi. You'll focus on my hand. There you go. See, you focus on my hand. I just got to touch the screen. So there you go. 302 watts on solar. Alternator chargers making 690 watts. So that's 1 kilowatt in with 390 watts going out. That was when we decided that we could shut off the alternator generator and go, right? And if you are in the Wisconsin area, Mickles? Yeah, Mickles Electric. Thank you. You all are freaking awesome. Salty Scorpion says, go with LiPo batteries. They are much safer and reliable. Absolutely not. We will be going with lithium iron phosphate, or LFP, or LFE, or Life PO4. That is not, lithium polymer is not safe for home battery backup solutions whatsoever. Do not use it for it. Please don't. Yeah. Use lithium iron phosphate, please and thank you. That's what we will be doing. Found a video. Ooh, I want to give his channel a shout out. Projects with Everyday Dave. He did an awesome video about creating his own battery, a 15 kilowatt hour battery for like $2,500. Now, there's no inverter on that. There's no charger on that. So those are two things you still have to buy. At least there might be a charger, but there's not an inverter. So you still have to buy an inverter. That's like another $1,000. But a 15 kilowatt hour battery for $2,500? It's nothing. That's nothing. That's like 15 cents a watt. That's what I pay for power out here. So it doesn't take long to repay that back. So Stephen Cullen says, uh, lithium iron, LiPo4. That's LFP. Yes, that's what people call it. I use LifePO4 because it's LiFeP04 or PO4, lithium iron phosphate. So. Workspear says humans are much harder to replace. I doubt that considering the amount of child support I have to pay to various baby mamas every month. Damn it, Worse Peter. They're harder to get to where they're useful. Let's go with that. Yeah, my panels are old polycrystalline panels. They don't even have a date on them, which tells you they're very old. The array should currently make like 450 watts max. It makes like 350, but I'm using 6 panels to get that kind of power because the EcoFlows, they are capped. So they're voltage and amperage capped. The Delta 2 is capped at 60 volts and 15 amps. So I have my solar panels currently set up in a 3S. So each panel is 20 volts, 10 amps, 2P. So that means that I can get 60 volts at 20 amps. Otherwise known as what? What is that? 240 watts? Is that right? No, 1200. What? Hold on. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. Why does that not sound right? That's 1200. That doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. The problem is the EcoFlow can only take 15 amps in at 60 volts for a max of 500 watts. So I know if we look at upgrading, we're going to have to deal with more input, right? More input. Johnny 5 need input. We have concerns. So we might end up doing like a big charge controller, like one that can handle 150 volts at 80 amps, right? Just a bunch of power. That's the kind of stuff that you don't hear about, right? Yeah, you can make a big battery for cheap. How do you charge it? How do you discharge it? And how do you make it so that you can just flip over to it on your house and not have to worry about anything, right? And at the same time, you don't backfeed the grid. That's a no-no. Don't backfeed the grid. So my goal is to utilize 3D printing in an effective, realistic, and cost-effective manner, right? There will be some times where we do some dumb stuff with it just because we can, but certainly there's going to be a lot of just, hey, we're going to put some batteries together. There's not really a lot of places where we can use 3D printing, but hey, let's do some caps for, the terminals. Let's do things like that, and we'll give away all the files. Because ultimately, I want more people to have access to this stuff. You can likely find solar panels relatively cheap on Facebook Marketplace right now. Like, I've got 3 different leads that I'm going on for panels right now, so I can buy panels cheap. Because, at least in Florida, once the panels come off of a roof, they cannot go back on. It'll void your roof warranty. It'll void a few different things. And so I have land. I can put it on the ground. When we did lose that big tree, I missed that big tree. It hasn't been cut down yet, still laying in my yard. And I don't really know what the plan is, but at some point we got to figure it out. Vinyl the World for $10 says for Amber's she shed. Yeah, Amber. It'd be nice to have a she shed for Amber and have a really nice thing for me too, but yeah. Cybertech says, I don't see why you couldn't use a generator switch panel. It would work the same and auto switch when power is lost. I agree. That would be kind of our goal. But in fact, I would have it operate in reverse. I would like to run off-grid as much as humanly possible and only switch to on-grid when we need it. But when we do need it, on-grid would also have a charger. So that if we have to switch to on-grid, it will charge off-grid, right? And so let's say we're running off-grid. And because I want to run off grid as much as possible. Why pay for power if you can generate it, right? I would want to run off grid as much as possible, but when we go on grid, there's a charger that charges up the off grid. So EcoFlow allows this where I can set it to charge on wall power up to a certain amount, and then solar will kick in. So I have it set so up to 15% is wall power only. After 15%, it is solar only, unless you're drawing over a certain wattage, and then it just does both. That's the kind of stuff that I want to look at doing for something like that. So Cybertech says, I wish I was close. I could definitely hook you up. Well, we can talk. I don't mind going places to learn more, and certainly you and I should have a chat. I think you're in my Discord now, aren't you? I think you are. $10 here and higher, if you want to come hang out. But we should definitely talk about that stuff, because I want to learn a little bit more about it. Because there are ways to do it right. There are ways to do it wrong. And I want to make sure that I do it right. Always want to make sure I do it right. Zenner says, maybe Amber could have the garage and you could have it all in one big building, or just move to a friendlier state and start over. Yeah, I know. I'd like to move to a friendlier state and start over, but we can't yet. I got to make this YouTube thing work before we can do something like that. So, yeah, Anchor has the same feature. I'm sure a lot of these companies have the same features. I chose EcoFlow because at the time it was affordable. That's it. And that was all. I chose EcoFlow because it was affordable. And I'm really happy that I did. Honestly, it's been really nice. It's been really nice. The Squid says, how does your area work with the power company? I've seen some places where you sell power to the grid at 25% of the price you pay for it. So I pay about 14.5 to 15.5 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm not breathing enough. Sorry. I'm not tired. I'm just not breathing enough. So I buy between 14 and 15 cents a kilowatt hour, but I sell at 5. And for the cost of a grid tie inverter, it's not worth it. It is not worth it. I will not get my payback period in time. So instead, I'd rather just run fully off grid as much as I can. That to me is a better move, right? But you got to do some things like you got to put soft starts on your AC. You got to put soft starts on all of your high amperage equipment. So like anything with a heater now needs a soft start. But yeah, it's not worth it for me to sell it back. So unless we end up producing way more than we use, which on average, my house uses 60 kilowatt hours a day, right? That's on average. So if I have 10 kilowatts worth of solar, 30 kilowatt hours worth of batteries, we should be fine to run effectively 100% off grid. But if we need to, I want to be able to turn it back on, right? That kind of stuff matters. The Squid says in New York, they don't let you put as many panels as you want. They limit you to your average consumption. Well, the nice thing is, 1, I don't live in New York. 2, I've got land, so no one can tell me what to do. I'm just going to do it. Zer says Grant needs an oxygen tank so he can keep talking about having to take as many breaths. Yeah, that'd be nice. Does your well pump run on 110? No, it doesn't. And that's why I want to make bigger batteries. Because bigger batteries can do 240. My Delta 2 cannot do 240 volts. And that means when we lost power, we lost our well. And I don't want to ever lose water again. See, what you don't think about is things like flushing toilets becomes a problem. Your toilet uses a lot more water than you think it does. They use even like energy efficient toilets are 1.2 gallons per flush. The average human drinks like half a gallon of water a day. That's it. So every time you use the restroom, assuming, you're not being water conscious, you're using gallons of water. And that becomes a problem. Showers. I didn't shower for 4 days. And I was doing hard work the whole time. There was a smell. Okay. Everyone kind of had the smell. Like, we were going out, and I'm like, oh, okay, everyone's just kind of smelly. That's great. I'm like, oh, look, we're all socially distancing again. It's because we're smelly. But if you need to go out, you need to go out, right? Ashley says, EcoFlow special units were 240 as 2 units hooked together. Yeah, I haven't gone down that path, and I don't have 2 units that can do that much wattage. What I'd like to do is just get one of the new Delta 3 Pluses. I think the new Delta 3 Plus can do 240. That would be really convenient. And then just a bunch of batteries for it. But yeah, Storm Stank, Shop Funk. That's amazing. Tom said, if you want to go off-grid with 60 kilowatt hours a day, you need much larger alternators and inverters and EcoFlow commercial units. Yes, we do. And the big thing is it's the kick-on, right? So my fridge, on average, drew about 140 to 160 watts. However, when it starts up, it draws 1,800 watts. 1,800 watts on startup, which means my River 2 Pro could not, in fact, operate as a battery for my fridge. Every single time the fridge compressor would try to turn on, it would turn off the AC outlets on the River 2 Pro. Even though it has the X-Boost technology, which said it can do 1,800 watts, we must have been just enough above it that it didn't like it, and it would shut it off. Which meant that River 2 Pro became a lot less useful to me for in-home power outages and became a lot more useful to me for portable power. And that's what it did. It served as our portable power pack when we were working on stuff. David Connor Shover says, Trip Light makes 10 to 20 kilowatt inverter units. My guess is that we probably only need like 7 to 15 kilowatt worth of inverter. I don't think we're going to need more than that. I can put a soft start on the AC that will draw, that'll make it draw down a little bit less. There are ways that we can measure this, right? So you figure 24 hours in a day, but realistically, you're only really using power heavily for, let's call it 16 hours a day. So we can do the math and we can figure out on average how much power that we need, okay? So 60 divided by, let's go with 16 hours, right? That's 4 kilowatt hours constant, okay? That's it. That's all that I reasonably need to run my house is 4 kilowatts. So if I put 8 kilowatts in or 10 kilowatts, I'm good. Even further, I had a 50 amp sub panel installed in my garage. So my house is weird. The freaking panel's on the outside of the house, which is a terrible location for an electrical panel. But I have a sub panel in my garage that's 50 amps. So I can just feed my house through there if I needed to. Yeah. Burst Peter says, couldn't you put a big-ass capacitor on the compressor of your fridge? I could. Yeah, you could do it. You could put a capacitor. Normally, soft starts are what people do. And I am going to be looking into soft starts. I think that there's some importance to be had there with the soft starts and all of that. But yes, you could put a big cap in the way. Beard Printer says, just hook up a bike to a generator. Great weight loss program. Fun fact, humans can only output like 700 watts of power. So that's really not that's not a lot. 746 watts to a horsepower, I believe. Humans don't do a lot of power. We're not that powerful. You think you might be, but you're not. You're not. David says, I parked my big ass cap on my battery bank. My 2500 watt inverter has no problem starting a 3 horsepower compressor. Interesting. We should talk about the caps. My fridge is 110, but yeah, definitely we could look at a cap, because what the capacitor will basically take up that surge, right? And allow it to draw down the cap before it hits anything else. A supercapacitor would be great for this particular instance. It'd be great for that. Yeah. Thomas says 2 Victron multi plus 5,000s are about 1,500 euros. It's probably what I'm looking at, right? Looking at probably 5 to 10. Probably start with 5 kilowatt hours and look to going up to 10 at some point. But I'm hoping that I can get a lot of this sponsored. The problem becomes that I'm not an off-grid channel. So, yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm going to ask, and the worst they're going to tell me is no. Right? I'm going to present them the ideas and everything. And I guess that brings me to a point that if you are good at negotiating contracts and you are good at working with companies and that kind of stuff, and you are looking for extra part-time work, we are hiring someone to assist in business development for the YouTube channel specifically, where we can get sponsors like EcoFlow, Jackery, whomever, to assist us in building out things like this. We can also look at monetary sponsors to cover things like the trips and things that we take throughout the year. Yeah. Pays by the hour. So if you want, hit me up. YouTube at 3dmusketeers.com. David Connor Shover says 500 farads of putting its thing down. Jesus, 500 farads. That's a super cap. That's a super cap. Which is pretty cool. But yeah, anyways, I've been talking for long enough, so I think it's time for us to kind of call this where it's at. Remember to stay until after I do my outro so we can give away some filament. And if you haven't entered, you got a couple of minutes still to enter. And if you don't mind, a couple of bucks helps that creator fund, keeps the channel ad-free during live streams. But that is it, guys. We survived Hurricane Milton. Things are not perfect here. They could certainly be a lot worse. We will rebuild. We do have the technology. And, well, we're going to use 3D printing in some unique ways to help make all of this possible. But that is all I have for you all today. Stay safe out there. Please stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. Call your damn loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. All right, let's give away some filament, and then let's go over to Steve Builds. Let's give away some filament, and then let's go hang out with Steve Builds. Yeah, leave a like, the notification bells, and all that kind of stuff. Ashley, I didn't hear back from you on Twitter after putting filament last week. Yes, that is because it hasn't shipped yet. I will send you a screenshot as soon as I ship it out. I was planning on doing all of that later today. So, yeah. But I did see your DM. You're good. All right, we're going to do 46 responses. That's it. Fine. Sucks to suck. All right, turning off the responses. Let's see what we got here. Y'all had plenty of time to get in on this, so I don't feel bad. All right, FJ Prince, you were the last one to get in, so there you go. There's something for you. And Thomas, you were the first one again. I see a couple of you still don't know how to do math, and I'm still concerned about it. I'm still concerned. All right, let's do the shuffle. Here we go. 46 people. Ooh, I don't know if he's here anymore. John Stern. Has John Stern won this month? He has not. John Stern, you win. I don't think you're here. I think you might have left. All right. And one more. And this one's for the elixir, by the way. So this one's for the elixir. Let's see. Did they do the math right? I think they might have won this month. No, they didn't. Hey, Cybertech, you want some elixir? Because you won some elixir, homie. There you go. You got the elixir. If you want elixir. If you don't want elixir, then you can get whatever you want. He's over at Steve's. Okay, I see how it is. I see how it is. I should have seen most people's DMs. if you don't hear back from me by like the end of day tomorrow, please do DM me again. Things have been a little bit crazy here, right? We've been trying to get things sorted. So I apologize. Berlin says just joined Swarm Ridiculous. Yep, we already gave away the filament. Sorry, boss. That's it, guys. Thank you all for coming out. Thanks for enjoying the show. I definitely, those of you that understand more about the off-grid stuff, please, please, please let me know. I would love to talk with you more offline so we can try to figure this stuff out. That is something that I would love to learn more about so I can be more educated in it. Education to me is probably the biggest thing. So, thank you. Nick T says, when's t-shirt shipping? I have put that on hold. I got to figure that out. So, Nick, I still have your DM in Discord. So, you are on that list. I got to get back on the t-shirt stuff. I am picking up from basically being away from the business for 2 weeks and trying to get caught up. So, if you can't tell, your boy hasn't been sleeping much. I'm doing the best I can. I'm sorry if things take a while, especially when it comes to the merch and stuff like that. So, yeah. Anyways, that is all I have for you all. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. Go hang out with Steve. Don't forget to leave a like, get subscribed, and let's go bother Steve. I'll see y'all later. Oh, yeah. Hey, stay tuned for Monday, because the video that a lot of you have wanted for a long time comes out on Monday.